this is not right, right? These are Americans, ordinary Americans who are suffering because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and these other governments and entities just decide to use them as leverage. So, you know, for our family, it's been way too long. You know, I've spent a third of my life without my dad, and it's really past time for him to come home. And I just need the president to hear us. And you know, he's met with so many of these other families, and it's just inexplicable why he chooses to ignore us. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you all for being here, and you know, it's really important for the media to keep covering so that you know our cases don't get lost. So thank you all for doing that.
Thanks, Harrison. I want to turn now to Miriam Kamalmaz, who's joining us from her car today. So I'm hoping that she can hear us.
Hi, John. Yes, thank you. My name is Miriam Kamalmaz, and I'm the daughter of Bash Kamalmaz. And I've realized that many of you still don't know who my father is. I'd like to introduce a little bit who he is. He's a humanitarian, actually an award-winning humanitarian. He's a psychotherapist who traveled the world to treat those in the worst catastrophes. And he was really good at what he did. And unfortunately, in February of 2017, he went to Syria to visit some family members, and he was considering opening a branch of his institute in Syria, and he barely was even in the country for less than 24 hours when he was kidnapped because he was taken at a temporary checkpoint. So that was set up to kidnap him, and he's been wrongfully detained for 7 years now, and we have not heard a single word from him. We don't know his fate, if he's alive or not. Can you imagine 7 years not knowing about your loved one's fate? It's been an absolute nightmare. I don't know how to explain it. Besides, this has ruined our lives. It's been really difficult. And what's more frustrating is trying to have the US government continue working on the case. It's been really, really difficult just getting some sort of negotiations going between the US and the Syrian government. It doesn't feel like it's a priority for the American government to continue these negotiations. They're not pushing as much as we would have liked to see them push, and as well as the president has been ignoring us. We've requested multiple meetings with President Biden, multiple meetings, as he's already met with the other Syrian the American hostage in Syria, which is Austin Tice. We're the only two public cases, but yet we're pushed aside. As Harrison said, we're treated like second-class citizens, while the president has already met with another American hostage in Syria with his family. We've been ignored and pushed to the side as if we don't exist. We're barely mentioned in any articles. We're not getting the same type of treatment or prioritization. We're just forgotten in a way, and that has really taken a toll. It's not only so painful that your loved one has gone missing and you don't know anything about them, but it's excruciatingly painful when you have to beg the government to do something and beg for the same type of attention and care that the US government is presenting to other families and yet not to us. And it's been very hurtful. I don't know what it takes to get the president to care for us the same way he's cared for other hostages. I don't know. It's absolutely unfair and unequal treatment, and very un-American to be treated this way. So my frustration is that we have not been receiving the same type of attention as the other hostage cases, even though our cases are just as bad, if not worse. Not knowing about your loved ones for 7 years is horrific enough. What more does it take? And thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. And I guess Miriam reminded me, I should have said at the beginning, of the cases that are sitting here before you, and there's 3 of them, because we're still missing one. These are some of our toughest, most difficult cases. They've been gone for years, right? They haven't been gone for a period of months or days. So Ida, I'm going to introduce Ida Dagger, who is the sister-in-law of Zach Shaheen. This is one of the cases that I think has the potential to become an Otto Warmbier Part 2.
Yeah. Well, let me introduce Zach Shaheen first. He's a U.S. citizen who worked for PepsiCo in Houston, Texas. And then he was sent on a foreign assignment to Dubai. He did very well, so he was hunted by a local real estate company to become the CEO. He did great over there. But 4 years later, he was arrested on a financial crime, on an alleged financial crime. Actually, it's a political case that was wrapped as a financial crime. He's been there for the last 16 years. And guess how much longer he needs to serve? Another 40 years. He's almost 60 years old. So they'll release him hopefully when he's 100 years old. We tried so hard over the years for the last 16 years, and nothing worked. Recently, however, in March 2023, the US government, the State Department, submitted a mercy letter with a humanitarian request to release him on medical grounds. He's seriously ill. He was in the hospital for 4 months. He had one surgery which didn't work, and then they had a repeat surgery, and he was almost on the verge of death. He needs more surgeries. He's got all sorts of diseases, cardiac, gastric, prostate, thyroid, you name it. But he's so scared that he will go through the same situation. So he is hoping, we are hoping as a family, that he'll come to Houston to the medical center where he will be treated. All we want is, the help of President Biden, because nothing else is working, it seems. We appeal, like the others from Bring Our Families Home, to meet with President Biden so that he uses his influence. In my case, our case as a family, he is in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, which is an ally country to the US. Other places may be more difficult, but all it takes, in my opinion, is for President Biden to talk to the president of the UAE. The president of the UAE also, we're appealing to him. He's an honorable man. Maybe he's not involved. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't heard of our case. I don't know. We want our voices to be heard. We want the interference of President Biden himself. And as my other colleagues who are suffering from the same thing, we were in Lafayette Park near the White House, and we were told to go to the curb, to get out of the park. And then the next morning, President Biden met with the families of the hostages in Gaza. We're very happy for them. We want them to be released. We're not jealous. It's just, why not us? Are we second-class citizens? We're also US citizens. We sent him, we were desperate. We sent him letters repeatedly. We sent to Mrs. Biden as well. And we even made ornaments, over Christmas with pictures of our loved ones and sent them to the White House. We asked them to put them on the tree. Of course, nothing happened. It was useless. So we tried. I know some reporters tried to help us out, but our voices are not yet heard. We want them to be heard at the highest level in the US, in the US government. So what do we need to do in order to get President Biden's attention? The United Nations Working Group in Geneva gave a ruling earlier this year, last year in March, that he is wrongfully detained and he should be released immediately. And they even said that he has to be compensated. We submitted this ruling to the State Department. We asked them to label him wrongfully detained. Nothing happened. They're still reviewing till now. What else can we do? I don't want to go into the merits of the case, whether he's innocent or not. He already served for an alleged financial crime 16 years. When is enough? Another 40 years, 56 years for an alleged financial crime, and he is seriously ill. We don't want him back in a box. We want him back alive so that he can spend, whatever is left of his life next to his family, next to his friends. His wife, my sister, is a broken woman. She's been crying, carrying the phone for the last 16 years. Not a day passes without her crying. Even to the shower, she takes the phone with her because we cannot call him. We don't know when he's able to call. So he calls. His mom in her mid-80s as well. She's crying. She says, I want to see my son before he dies or I die. I mean, all of us, our family, are devastated. I personally am dedicating, most of my time. I mean, he's my brother-in-law, and he's, just his voice is not heard. Our voices are not heard. What do we have to do to get President Biden to listen to us? And, what helps us more is that this is an easy case for the US government, very easy. I know they've tried. I know they submitted that request, but why take so long? Why since last March? Why don't we get the attention of the president for this? All I'm asking now is that, the president listens to us, meets with us for a minute or two, just to give him a summary and ask him to interfere personally, since the State Department is convinced, that he needs to be released on medical grounds. So Secretary Blinken as well, to put his own influence. And lastly, I appeal to the president of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. He's of a very honorable family, and they are known for their empathy, for their compassion. Forget the case, forget the merits. He spent 16 years. He's seriously ill. No, you're not serious to keep him another 40 years. He won't go through another year even. I really hope he can recover. He can come to the medical center of Houston. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ida. And, I want to say, since we were going to be joined by Catherine Sweden, whose son, Mark Sweden, has been held in China under particularly brutal circumstances. He's had both hands broken together at the same time, several times. He's had his kneecaps forcibly dislocated, right? Like, this is not, these situations are every bit as real, right? From a brutality standpoint, is what's going on in Gaza. And if anything, it might be more brutal. It's gone on for longer, and there's been more damage done. So again, I mean, having been in several of these meetings that the president has had with families over the last 10 years, including one while he's vice president and they were the Obama administration, every single time it's turned out well for the president politically, every time it's turned out well for the family. So I'm not sure what this curious notion that you don't have to meet the president to get your loved ones back is about. But having sort of started the trend with Trevor Reed, can tell you conclusively that Trevor Reed is home because his parents got in to see the president. So with that, if anybody has questions, just give me a hand raise.
John, I think Catherine is on this.
Oh, I'm sorry, where? What'd you say, Harrison?
Catherine, can you hear us? Yeah, Catherine Sweden.
Which one is she? Did she dial in?
Looks like it from my end. I don't know if you see that.
Give us 1 second, guys. We're just going to see if we can get Catherine unmuted here. Catherine, if you could unmute yourself, that'd be great. Can you hear us? Hello, Catherine.
Hello.
We can hear you. Hello, this is everybody. I didn't realize, sorry, Catherine, I didn't realize you were on. I was wanting to make sure Mark wasn't forgotten, but please go ahead. Tell us a little bit about Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I've been on since you started and just listening. I just want to, first of all, thank everybody for keeping up with the story, even though other stories kind of take command over ours. But I'm sure that they keep up with whatever is said on different media. And I just wanted to thank all the people out there and those that are not here, those who work behind the scenes that don't get credit, but they press on. They keep doing what they need to do, even though we may not hear from them every single minute. But what I want to know is, what does a mom have to do to have my country help my son? He's a devout Catholic, a hardworking man. He went to buy flooring in 2012. Like many, many other businessmen back then, it was not a big deal to go there and buy things. He was buying flooring and furniture. He was about to be married in 8 weeks. And I was on the phone with him every single day. One look at his blue passport, and they detained him for questioning, never let him go. There's been a lot of other, it's been over 11 years now. A lot of other Americans have been released from China. Why not Mark? You can tell them you are working with, you could tell them everything. When he was interrogated, there wasn't anything on him, in him. They took everything he had and put it away, and they just never let him go. So right now, as I tell everybody, and I'm all over Twitter and I'm all over Facebook because they tried to silence me in the government, saying it would be worse for Mark if I spoke out. They don't want me to question them in the government, but of course I don't listen to that because it's my son's life, so I don't really care. I'm working with lawyers right now to explore all options, including options here in the U.S. That we're probably going to escalate here. The U.S. needs to do more to bring all stakeholders in who can help, to follow the Levinson Act, stop making excuses why Mark's not here with me rather than in some communist country, as a political prisoner, because that's what he is, a political prisoner. He went to China as a businessman, but will leave as a political prisoner. So when his passport shows he was never in China at the time of any crime. The WGAD 3-4 years ago demanded his release. Mel Gibson had a mass said for him with 30 Carmelite nuns. He asked that he be released, and he's still in the picture. I just met with Bishop Strickland on Saturday, who came here to pray with me for Mark. They need to stop making excuses. I spoke with the ambassador to China, Ambassador Burns, on Thursday. And I hear the same thing over and over. China holds the key. We don't know what they want. Well, why don't you know what they want? We pay you. You work for us. You have the wherewithal, the smarts, the military, the money, the people. You have all that. I have nothing. I'm in a small little town of 5,000 people, disabled, working night and day to think of something to get my son home. And I have given those measures to the government to get them home. And all I hear is we're doing it. We're top priority. Well, I don't believe that they're top priority. I have not heard their names mentioned once from upper level people in the government. And this is, I can appreciate that the things in the world have happened. And it seems like every time something happens, we take one step forward and 2 steps back as far as getting our loved ones home. But enough is enough. When they tell me they don't know what China wants, well, have you even asked? Do you have a plan? They tell me, yes, they have a plan, but China's not listening. So China only knows strength. You cannot show yourself in the world as weak. They only know strength. We have many, many, many people here that China wants back. And I have a list of them. And also I urge people to write to the people in APEC, because the big meeting that was here, those people that are members of APEC, APEC, they're all about trade. They're all about money, trade. They're top people in the trade world. They need to know what's happening with people, with American citizens that China is doing, and not praise them. And so, you know, there's a limit. Mark is ill. His leg is so swollen that they may not be able to get the brace off his leg without cutting it off. They broke his hands during torture. He was moved to Dongguan prison while Xi was here visiting President Biden for that conference, unbeknownst to me. Now he'll be doing slave labor at 74 cents a month. If he wants coffee, he has to do it. He refuses a medical exam because they won't allow a consulate there while the exam's going on. They won't allow anybody from the U.S. to just stand there with Mark. And Mark does not trust them. So he's ill. He's eating only bread every day. And worse than that, he's lost over 120 pounds now. But he won't give up. He's strong in his faith, and he's strong and determined to come home. But this is a tragedy because we don't know what they want. But I'm sure that President Biden does know what they want. So now it's time to clear out the tiny little things, if in there, that might affect his election. It's time to clear all that stuff out and just be a human being and bring Mark home. I want to see him. I'm already 73. I want to see him one time before I die. I want to see him. He's my best friend. He's a good man. He lost everything in the last 10 years. And so, you know, he's still at Christmas. He's still all that he's been through. And he had the U.S. consulate buy me a tiny Christmas present from China. And when he came to the States, he mailed it to me. And it was a little embroidery kit because he knows I love to do that. All he's been through, and he thought about his mom on Christmas. It's unbelievable. And, you know, I just want to say there is a way to bring these people home. They need to stop cherry picking and bring them home. China's a whole different animal. And it's not that they can negotiate easily, but they have to show strength in the U.S. government, because that's the only thing China knows. And I do want to, thank people behind the scenes, but that's really all I had to say. I'm working with lawyers to explore all options, including options here in the U.S., and it will be escalated, but they need to do more to help my son and get him out of this communist, because if they don't set an example, more people will suffer, more people will be taken and hostage, and it won't end. And that's really all I had to say. And now, thanks everybody for your time.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm glad you're on. Sorry, I just saw your phone number and not your name there. So I'm glad we got to hear from you directly. And I want to give folks a chance to ask some questions now. If you want to give us a hand raise here, I can everybody's available. Caitlin, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Caitlin with CBS. I want to follow up on something Harrison said about people in the government who would love nothing more than to have this issue go away. And this question is for any of the family members on the call. Who do you think is blocking these decisions to bring your family members home? Or have you been told that specific agencies or people are standing in the way?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to my experience. I mean, I don't know, who in the government is actually against bringing Americans home. They won't frame it like that, and they're not going to tell me because they're going to lose their job if they do tell me. But all I can say is, I mean, I know that there are various folks in the government who just are stalling, right? They don't want this to be a priority because they have other equities, other things at stake. And I ask constantly, well, just let me talk to these people. Give me 5 minutes on the phone to just talk to them and let them hear, and give them a chance to hear from our side of the story. But of course, I never get that access. I don't even know who they are. So I wish I could give you a better answer, Caitlin. I want to know that myself. But we don't know. And ultimately, that's why we have to go to the president, right? Because, going from, from the working level up through all these other agencies. I mean, we've tried, our family has tried that for, more than 7 years, and it hasn't gone anywhere, right? And it's what more, how much longer do we have to wait? What other levers do we have to push, right? So that's why we have to go to the president. That's plain and simple.
And Harrison, I want to interject here too, that the buck stops at the White House. Everybody knows the buck stops there. I don't even know if he actually knows the names of the people in China, where that's what we're told, but I don't even know that. So the buck stops in the White House. So individual people, whatever they try to do, whatever side they're on, whatever they are doing, it stops in the White House. So it has to be the ultimate responsibility of the president to get something going here and make some demands, because like I said, China only knows strength. They don't know weakness, and it's time to change that, either by Biden or whomever in the government. So that's all I had to say about that.
I have something to say. In our case, for Zak Shaheen, he's in an ally country, in a friendly country. And I strongly believe that they have not given a decision about the Levinson to label him wrongfully detained just because they're our friends. He meets 8 of 11 criteria, and only one criterion is needed of the Levinson Act. We worked closely on this. We submitted it twice already, and all they tell us, it's under review, for the last few years. So at least let them say that he's wrongfully detained, since the United Nations said, the working group said so, Foley Foundation, the Human Rights Watch, and every single criterion. I don't want to go through all the criteria. What's required is just one criterion to be met, to be labeled wrongfully detained. So when we go to SPIHA to help us out, they say he has to be wrongfully detained, labeled by the State Department. Until now, he is not. So we're trying here and there to get the help we want. And finally, we are very grateful that the State Department submitted that request, to the UAE from the State Department, asking for humanitarian release. And we learned recently that this request is now with the president of the UAE. It's at his office. So it's very, very important that our president, the US president, talks to the president. It's in his hands now. If he asks him for a favor personally president to president. We just hope that they will have, because they do have the empathy. I know. I mean, personally, I lived in that part of the world. I lived in Dubai, and I know very well that Al Nahyan, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, has a lot of empathy. If the request is with him, let President Biden talk to him and ask him to send a seriously ill man back home to his family. That's all I have to say.
I think Ida raised an important issue in that for reasons that I'm not sure I understand, because it's inconsistent with the law. I think we'd be hard pressed. Can anybody name a person that's been designated from a country with which we allegedly have friendly relations? There's certainly a long history of the U.S. government pretending that Americans are not being held hostage in the Middle East for the sake of political expediency. Egypt, Saudi, UAE, name the Gulf state, and there are Americans being held wrongfully there. And I think it doesn't get enough attention, and sort of they need to be more transparent about the designations, and they need to apply the Levinson Act without fear or favor, which is what the Foley Foundation does. And the government kind of needs to get on that level. Who else has questions? Anybody else have questions? Caitlin again, yes.
Yeah, I've got one more. This one's for Catherine. Are you considering taking legal action against the US, or what are the options you're considering?
It's certainly an option, but it takes a lot of thought. And my goal is to get Mark home, number one. If it looks like he is not coming home, or if he dies, God forbid, it's an option that's open, and that option stays with me and requires a lot of thought. But I could tell you that in response to the last question and statement, Mark is wrongfully detained. But that hasn't mattered because he's still not home. And so, they are working on his case, but it doesn't matter. He's still not home. So, legal action is certainly part of it. I am done pretty much listening to their jargon. I appreciate people that are behind the scenes trying to work to get him home. But that doesn't matter in the realm of things. It needs to come from higher up. And I think people have dragged their feet in the government long enough. And I'm not entertained by what they say every time I speak to them, and I speak to them often. And they say that Mark is a top priority. And I've heard that over and over. So now is the time to get him out. If this situation in, China is about trade, let's face it. They want open trade. We have prisoners here. So, launching something right now, it takes a lot of thought, but it's there. It's a possibility. Main thing is I get Mark home. I just want to see his face again. When I look at his pictures here, I see a little boy running around playing. And it's very, very difficult, and that's all I can do to keep myself together. But I work tirelessly, trying to figure out ways. And they really need to, in the government, listen to my plans, listen to what's going on, and stop acting holier than thou. They work for us. And, if just because you're not deemed wrongfully detained, or you are, we're all political prisoners. And a political prisoner needs to come home. And So stressing that point is most important.
Others?
So
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I thought you, I'm sorry.
No,
I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished. I just wanted to address that anything's a possibility. Day by day, I get more fed up. I'm convinced that they will let him die, and then it'll be over. They won't have to worry about it. It's out of their realm. I'm so sorry, and I regret to inform you. I don't want to hear that. And it's coming to that point where they need to be held responsible, and I'm the one to do it. So I have no fear. I'm already 73. I'm going to be 74 soon. I'm on a walker 24/7. I have, I have issues with my health, but anything I go through is better than what Mark's going through. So I want to see him again. I want to see him walk off that plane. I don't see any reason why we, as the most powerful country in the world, and we have been, why can't something be done? Who is really running the White House to allow this to happen to U.S. citizens? If they don't nip it in the bud now, if they don't stop it now with some kind of strength, it's going to continue. More and more people, more and more families, they're all going to suffer. And meanwhile, China is laughing. So something needs to be done, and I will be the one to do it, whether people jump on board or not, because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. I have been threatened here at my own place by the Chinese, and so I'm not afraid of anything. That's all I had to say about it, but thank you for listening.
Other questions?
Hi, this is Camilla Schick, also from CBS. Thank you very much for doing this and sharing your stories. And sorry if you can hear my 8-month-old in the background. I had a question, I think this goes to Ada actually, with the UAE, and it's interesting because it's a friendly country. Have you, can you share at all if you have appealed to the UAE? And if so, have you got anywhere with that? Can you share any details about that?
Yes, I have personally, back in January 2023, gone to the UAE embassy. First, we went to the consulate in Houston because we live in Houston. Me and my sister, Zach's wife, and children. We went to the consular office in Houston, and we just wanted to submit a mercy letter to the president of the UAE. And they wouldn't take it. They said, "I'll contact the embassy in the UAE." So I traveled to the embassy in Washington, D.C. So I traveled to D.C. and I tried to get an appointment with the ambassador. There was no response. So I went there and I stood for hours. It was quite cold. And I had that letter. I said, "I just want to see the ambassador." Give him the letter. It's a mercy letter from the family of Zach, from the wife, the children. He has 2 children, the mother. They all signed this letter. And I wanted to ask him, just give this letter, make sure, just assure me that this will get to the president of the UAE, asking for his mercy. And they wouldn't let me in, they kept coming in and out and all that. But finally, the ambassador called me by phone, and he said that he will deliver that, to give this letter to the people at the door outside the gate, not inside the gate. I wasn't allowed in. And he would send it. He will make sure that he will send it to the UAE so that it will be delivered to the president. He said he will give it to the Minister of Justice, and then that will go to the president. And I gave the letter and I left. I mean, it took me hours over there. I couldn't stay longer. So I never heard back. But recently, I heard that the mercy letter or the humanitarian release request from the State Department that was submitted back in March 2023 is now at the president's office, the president of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. So that's why it's so important that, President Biden and Secretary Blinken use all their effort to talk to the president. It's in his hands to save Zach's life so that he comes home. But that's about it.
Thank you. And this is a question just to help me recap from all of you. When was the last time you were all invited to a call with Secretary Blinken? And can you give us any details on whether you expect another call at any point with the Secretary? Secretary Blinken never answered our request to talk to him, even by phone, but we talked to the lady who is the UAE officer. We talk to her regularly whenever we want. Yes, she listens to us, but that's it. Listens to us. But we got no results yet. I know that recently, at least, that humanitarian request was submitted, and we're very thankful. But if they were to release him and it's there since March 2023, what are they waiting for? What is the government doing? Is there enough pressure or request a favor from a friendly country? That's all we're asking now, since it is like this, and it's a US citizen's life at stake. He spent 16 years, and to spend another 40 years is unheard of. It's a death sentence for him, definitely.
I have spoken, this is Catherine. I have spoken to Secretary Blinken on a Zoom call about 3 times. He says the same thing. American citizens are a priority. Mark is a priority. The last call was last year. Oh, and then it was last year, and then all of a sudden, I was told that I started sending him emails, texts, whatever, to get it find out when he would go next. He's never actually met with Mark, but he told me the same thing over and over, that they were a top priority, that China was difficult, that their thoughts and prayers, that he has a card in his shirt with Mark's name on it. I'm sure he told other people that too. But since last year, I have not heard anything from him. And when I try to send something, whatever I send, be it email, Twitter, Facebook, anything, even calling, I can't get through. And the U.S. consulate told me that's because his call, his name is vetted. And if you try to contact him, they know with his name on there that it's not going to go through. So his calls, my calls to him, are vetted on that part. There's no way to reach him. I have gone and asked Spiha. I've asked Spiha to get a message to him that I need a call. It's been long enough, and she pushed it over to someone else and said he handles that, and it never happened. So I never got a call from him because they never requested it. So it's plain to me that a lot of people working behind the scenes to get Mark out, they genuinely want to do it, but their hands are tied by the White House. And since this is election year, it makes it even worse. But they will find out soon that the world needs to know that these hostages are not just people in there having 3 meals a day and playing cards. Hostage is a hostage is a hostage. It doesn't matter if that person was taken off of your front lawn or taken from a parking lot or in a different country. It's still a hostage. They all deserve the same urgency to get them home, to put them on a plane, whatever it takes. Our government has the people, the power, the wherewithal, supposedly the smarts, to figure out a way to get them home. And I don't see it happening. So yes, I'm very vocal, as much as I can be. I would like to be able to travel, but I can't. So I welcome any press, anyone who wants an interview, to talk about this more with me. But behind the scenes, people never get credit, but then their hands are tied because they're working for someone who is not responding to them. But I am working with lawyers to explore all options in the U.S., including options in the U.S. This will be escalated, and the U.S. needs to do more to bring all stakeholders in who can help. Follow the Levinson law and stop making excuses why Mark is not here with me rather than in some communist country. I contacted the Levinson people, and they actually told me that they don't handle China. So, I suspect that I don't know what the agenda is here other than to express what we feel. And so I thank people behind the scenes because I know their hands are tied, but that's enough. You have to be able to speak your mind. That's what this country was founded on. A few people that spoke their mind and did the right thing. And now the government is so big, such a big conglomerate, they don't feel like one little man is insignificant, and they don't feel like they need to put out the call to get him home. So that's all I have to say. I'll be taking up your whole time.
Who's got other questions?
So
We kept you guys.
Thanks very much.
Other questions? Anybody? Before we go, does one of you, Harrison, maybe you want to talk about our flag, which is on my background behind me, before we go in hostage day?
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, yeah, thanks everyone for sticking around. I know it's been a long press conference, but yeah, the flag and John's background, right? That was designed in part by the families in the Bring Our Families Home campaign, and the NDAA signed at the end of last year actually enshrines this flag as a national hostage flag, and March 9th coming up marks the first annual U.S. hostage and wrongful detainee day. So this flag will need to be flown on all federal buildings on that day. And, that is a natural time for the president to meet with us. If he ignores us again on that day, then what message does he send? If it's on freaking National Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day, he refuses to meet with us. That's basically saying that we're not even, worthy of that designation, right? So that is all all I have to say. I mean, it's inexcusable that we're ignored. It's beyond frustrating. I think you've heard about the frustrations from all of our families on this call. It's not going to end. We're not going to give up for our loved ones because they've suffered so many years, and we're being ignored. It's just not right. The administration needs to do right. They need to do more than scheduling calls. I mean, they don't even do that frequently, but scheduling calls with lower level officials and whatnot. I mean, that's we're past that. We just need to meet with the president. That's the only way we know and we've seen that we can cut through this. And so, we're asking President Biden, as we did in our open letter last week, Just meet with us for National Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day. It's simple as that. Start from there, listen to us, and then we can maybe finally push something loose.
Anybody else? Any last questions before we let you guys go back to your work? I appreciate everybody hanging out this long. Yes, Jorge, good to see you.
Good to see everybody, and well, I've been listening carefully on everybody's point of view, and I've been, as you know, since my my release back in October the 22nd, 2022. And for the people who doesn't know me, my name is Jorge Toledo. I'm a former hostage. Spent 5 years in as a hostage by the Venezuelan regime, and I was finally released in October 2022. I have some thoughts here and regarding all the work that I've been doing since I've been released, because I've been very active on supporting other hostages, as well as creating awareness on the issue on hostage diplomacy. First of all, you know, the responsibility of the government, for me, in a simple way, is three things: to protect the nation's interest, to protect the security of the state, and the protection of its citizens. So we cannot segregate these three things in different patterns. So this is part of the same package. So it's for me unacceptable that in California they had a trade meeting with China when they are not addressing the other two topics that could affect trade or the economic interest of both countries. So I think that's a matter of, you know, I see that some dysfunctionality on the government response on because of addressing their responsibilities in a segregated fashion. The second thing relates to the need of the families to meet President Biden. So when we talk about hostages, it's not only my case that I spent 5 years in a dungeon down in Venezuela. The families are also hostages of this situation, and they are in a worse position because in my case, or in a case of a hostage, we can deal with the day-to-day activities. So we deal with the custodians, with the authorities, we deal with the scarcities and the ailments and so on in firsthand. But the families are far away, and they always think about the worst. So the psychological impact on the families is huge. So in order to protect hostages, and when I mention hostages, I include families. The fact of, you know, spending time with the families and explaining the plan and explaining, it's part of the responsibility of the government on protecting the nation's citizens. The third part where I'm hearing is the Levinson Act, and another case of dysfunctionality. It's because the Levinson Act perhaps needs to be re-engineered to reflect the current situation on hostage diplomacy. Why? Because, you know, there's lack of transparency on the way an individual is designated as a wrongful detainee. Nobody knows what is the science and the alchemy behind that. So I think that that is becoming a bottleneck in order for the government to fulfill its obligation to protect their citizens. And when I mention citizens, I'm not mentioning a class of citizens. All citizens are equal. So it's in our Constitution. And the fourth, and well, it's very interesting what I heard from Ms. Zuidan about legal actions. I think that, you know, we're in this first stage, and in my time frame as a hostage, the dependency on diplomacy was in 100%. But what about the pursuit of justice? Because hostage diplomacy, from my standpoint, is a crime committed against a citizen or against humanity. So I think that I'm seeing a gap here on the justice side and how to explore avenues to pursue justice against criminals. And that is something that would help to deter the hostage-taking practice in the future. So this is some of my thoughts and my reactions on what I'm hearing. And besides that, so my commitment and my mission in life after being released is to support the families as this group supported my own family during my captivity. So I'm here for you guys, and not only for the families, also for the media to discuss any avenue for bringing a permanent solution to this issue, which is I think is a crime. Thank you for your attention, and I apologize for jumping on your meeting, but I think I must raise my voice again also.
Amen. I think those are very important points. Anybody else have any questions? All right, I think we'll let you guys go. You all have my information. The system should email you a summary of the meeting. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like because I've never tried it before, but it's supposed to do that. And if anybody needs access to the recording that didn't get it, just send me an email. Appreciate everybody's time. Bye now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.